Hello, we have made it. This is the 3 week mark. It is day 21 of my facial feminization surgery recovery, and I'm continuing to feel better than ever. I think at this point, as a status check, like this little bit of bruising here that was like this huge kind of thing, it is almost gone. Different scarring, you can really only see this for that incision line. You can barely see under my nose. I feel like in the last video I made, there was like nothing really visible unless you get really close. And then for the hairline, that's obviously the most visible area. A lot of these scabs have still yet to come up. So I think once these really start to flake off and remove from that area, it is gonna start to be a lot more. It's gonna blend in a lot more, and even at this point with my hair down, you can really only see that front part. So I feel like it is becoming more and more normal looking, which is so exciting. Um, I think some of the itching I was feeling in my last video, that started to go down, but then I also experienced a lot of skin peeling. I think that's just another stage of going through, like, sort of the shock to the skin on your face. I think that was kind of part of the cycle. It's getting really gross. Like, I feel like there was like flakiness, but certainly not the grossest thing that I've been through in this whole recovery process. But like, it really kind of makes sense, because one of the other things that I was advised on for this recovery period, the 6 weeks of intensive recovery, is to really go easy on, like, you gotta wait about the 2 weeks before you can start using your usual skincare products, your cleansers and moisturizers. And they pretty explicitly tell you not to use any new products. And they also say wait the full weeks for harsher stuff like retinol. And it really only started to make sense when I thought about it a little bit. And you think about the sort of initial breaking in period that a lot of skincare can have. Like, it can be very strong on the skin. Retinol particularly, there's a lot of times when you can expect more exaggerated reaction, like redness or peeling of skins, like other things. Like, so to put that on particularly sensitive skin is definitely not advised for the early periods of recovery. And I can sort of tell from the cycle that my skin is going through in general that uh, everything that it's processing right now, I really don't need the extra care. But God, I really missed my full skincare routine and can't wait to resume that. Um, at this point, still on the puree diet, but like I said, I've been getting more and more creative with that. Um, I took some of the recipes I like making the most, like a burrito bowls. I love making, like rice bowls, stir fries, a lot of rice stuff. So it's fairly simple, but I substituted the steaks and chicken like that I would usually use for those with ground meats, and made them pretty much exactly how I would. And then I put it all into my food processor, my NutriBullet, and just like liquefied all that and then put that over rice. It looks kind of gross, but like from my standpoint, like right now, that actually made for a really good dinner. I would advise anybody else going through this that's trying to change it, like, get creative in whatever you can blend up without watering it down. Any type of mixture like that, like, you can get some really good and pretty tasty results from uh just going for it with the blender. And, it's not going to be as good as just the solid version of that, but getting the taste and like everything is there. So it's going to be just as filling. Yeah, I advise it. Or maybe I'm just going crazy because I'm just dying for solid foods right now, but soon enough. Next week at the 4-week mark, I move on to the soft foods part of the diet restriction. So I'll be able to make some of those things with the ground meats again, but not have to blenderize them. So when I go and have that, I might just be like, I don't know what I was thinking with that puree stuff. That is absolutely gross. This is so much better. But I'll get there when I get there. Also looking forward at the 4-week mark to be allowed to brush my teeth normally. That's another thing that when you have incisions inside of your mouth, and this is another reason why the diet is so restricted to liquid and pureed things, is because with the incisions inside my mouth, like I can't just go and like brush at my gum lines and teeth like I normally would, especially the bottom where I have this incision right here. I'm basically advised not to brush my bottom teeth at all. You're really leaning heavily on prescription mouthwashes and stuff like that. I have been very gentle with teeth brushing, but because you can't brush as normal, it also feeds into the not being able to eat as normal, because chunks and like other stuff, like if you had something gooey like cheeses, that stuff, it would be really hard to clean without brushing thoroughly. And if you can't brush thoroughly, then it's going to stay there in the incisions. It kind of feeds into it. So that 4-week mark, I think, is like an initial point when all the dissolvable stitches have dissipated and you can resume cleaning. So while the mouth is still sort of recovering, there's not really a threat of anything opening up on you, so you can brush as normal, which means that you can eat softer like foods, but solid foods, because you can clean properly. And it probably just makes sense after weeks of being on a more liquid diet not to jump immediately into like thick, like heavy food. That's probably going to be really tough because my stomach's not used to it right now. So it's all a stepping up process. And while I just want to eat normal, I get it. So I think that's all for normal updates at this point. And I think the other thing I wanted to talk about is like I have sort of, glossed over some of the grosser part. Like I refer all the time to the different gross that that I've sort of experienced it, but don't really go into like too much details. But I think anyone that is caring for someone who's going through a similar procedure, someone who's looking to go through a similar procedure, should probably be aware of some of the grosser things, because I could so imagine these things like freaking people out. But first of all, there is a lot of blood and dried blood that you deal with in that early week 1. It is not unusual to kind of be coughing up phlegm blood mixtures. I know it's super gross. I lived it and it was not fun, especially when the nose starts to clear up and your sense of taste starts coming back. That is a really gross period, but it's totally normal. There's just drainage that you have to go through, and it will eventually dissipate. There's going to be points when you just start seeing that there's not really much coming out. Like, you don't feel that phlegm in like the back of your throat. You don't feel that gross feeling of congestion. And yeah, I'd say really probably more those first 5 days, even that, because I think by the time I was heading in for my checkup, or even earlier at that like exact 1 week mark, that just wasn't happening anymore. Um, Other things, I didn't deal with it so much, but it is normal to deal with nausea. They also prescribe you anti-nausea medications. It's pretty standard practice to also be discharged on an antibiotic. I had like a 7-day process, but that anti-nausea, and I never ended up needing to use it when I was at home. But fun story, like I'd mentioned before, it was over in New Haven, Connecticut that I had my procedure, and that means that on day one, when I was discharged and went home with my parents, I had a nice hour and a half car ride to get through, and I braved through 99% of that. We were literally on the street pulling up to my parents' house. We were on Post Road in Rhode Island, and out of nowhere the nausea hit me and I just threw up all over myself. Not awesome, not a great moment. And knowing that I would be going back into the house and seeing my dog for the first time in 2 days, and that she would be, all excited and also confused, wondering what was going on, like who this mangled looking stranger was who smells like mom. Just a lot going on, and yeah, that was a low moment. Doesn't really feel that great when that happens, but it's just another one of those things that it happened that after such a long procedure, all of the like everything procedurally, having been under anesthesia for about 8 hours, your body is so out of whack. The nausea the nausea is real, and in my case it was mostly good, but you add a little bit of that motion sickness from being in the car to it, and yeah, that was the perfect cocktail for some bad results. But that was the only time I had nausea. But again, everyone who gets discharged, you're probably going to get like a prescription for that. So if you experience nausea more than I did, you will have the medication available to you to kind of treat that alongside everything else, with the pain management, the antibiotic, and everything else that you're doing to take care of yourself. One last thing is that also, I believe, coming out of that long of anesthesia, body going out of whack, it can take a while to get normal, like, bathroom functions back. That's also normal. I think it wasn't until, like, day 5 for me, like, which is a really wild thing. And probably up until that point, there was just the way the stomach reacts, like, to different things, and like different gas pains that build up, because when you're eating, like the way you do, you're probably gulping most things and stuff. Like, it's just, there's a lot of really gross, but totally normal, expected things that you will go through, like, after a procedure like this, but you'll get through it. It'll be gross, and then later on you can just kind of laugh about how awful it was. But all normal. These are all things that I was told to expect. They're all things that I experienced and took in stride, and at this point, I am past all of those particularly gross things. And here I am now at 3 weeks, where my biggest complaint is that I can't eat solid food. So I'd say things are like a lot better now. It's just there's no getting past that first week being really strange and tough. Like it is challenging in different ways. I'm sure it's challenging in a mixture of different gross or painful or nauseating or uh mobility type of reasons for every person, but a mixture of all these things is normal, and you'll get to these points later on where you feel better, you feel more normal. And yeah, I hope that wasn't too awful to listen through for the people that wanted to stick around through this back half section. But yeah, thank you again to everyone who's continued reaching out, everyone who's talked to me, continued to give well wishes. Like, this has really been like a time that I felt so much love and support from everyone. So thank you all, and I will keep you posted and probably update at that 4-week mark. All right, bye.